Hi friends, and welcome to my channel. It's Amy. This is my first video ever. I have been trying for like 3 months to try and get this video recorded. It's been a process to say the least. I find them to cringe, I'm not saying things correctly, I'm moving my hands too much, hence holding my coffee. So it's been a lot. So welcome to my channel, like I said. This is going to be my writing channel. I'm going to document my process, even though I'm quite far into the process. I have 2 projects I'm currently working on. I am drafting one and I am revising another. So for today's video, those are kind of going to be what I'm talking about. I'm going to take you through the process that I've done with the 2 projects and how far I've gotten, and I'm slowly going to be making more stuff that way. It's also going to be kind of a day in the life, but a recap of like the past maybe month or 2 of me writing. So you'll see a lot of stuff kind of being like thrown in on random days because I'm just kind of trying to play catch up right now. So yeah, come along with me. Okay, so first project I'm going to talk about is Project Ghost. This is my debut, well, hopefully to be debut novel. It's really close to my heart, and it's actually the first novel that I have finished in totality. It's one that I have kind of poured all of myself into within the past year, and there are bits of me and my experiences into it, so it really has an emotional connection for me, and it can be emotionally triggering for me in certain parts. But it was what I needed to process things. Also, my therapist thinks it's a good idea, so that works. But yeah, so we're gonna talk about Project Ghost. So yeah, Project Ghost for me was a story that I had a very easy time plotting, which is very rare for me because I'm not a plotter. I am very much a pantser, so I just kind of write to write, and every time I've done that with a story, I've never been able to finish the story. So this time around, the story idea came to me, and I outlined things, and I plotted, not as intensely as some other people would plot, but it was a shift for me, and I really liked it. So like I said, for me, Project Ghost is a really emotionally charged story. The main protagonist, Lenore Moriarty, is a 29-year-old who really deals a lot with her mental health. She has gone through years of emotional neglect from her parents and kind of had to raise herself emotionally while combating mental health that she had inherited and was predisposed to from her family. But for her parents and them, they were undiagnosed. She went a long time going undiagnosed with it until, with some more knowledge gained from school and everything, she learned about it. So for her, it's her journey on dealing with ghosts from her past, things and incidents that constantly haunt her and trigger her, while also now having to grapple with the grief and loss of her parents. And it also deals with then her mental health battling and yet coinciding at the same time as an actual physical haunting happening with her parents. And so it's her journey of trying to figure out what's real, what's not, and hopefully I've done a good enough job where the reader feels that way as well, where reality is so warped they cannot tell what's real and what's not as well. So I ended up using the 3-act structure. It was one that kind of helped me figure out what to do. So I'm gonna look at my laptop now. So I have like the opening image where she is waking up from like a nightmare, and we don't really know it's a nightmare. Again, you know, altered reality, we don't know what's real and what's not. And then it kind of goes from there where we start getting other characters introduced. We have one who is like the guider, kind of mentor person for her, who's what she would like to be if she was mentally stable, which is her best friend. we have the twist of a stalker, but also her and the therapist possibly thinking that it might be just a paranoid response to an incident that happened some years ago when Lenore was in college. We also have a first-time love interest, no, not first-time love interest, wrong. A first love who comes back in the story, who is a key part into helping her heal and move forward. I wouldn't say he is the trigger for it. I would say he is the thing that helps her. But she is the main trigger for her healing and figuring out the things on how to cope. I say that it's a gothic story because it's really set in a small town. It's very specific small places where it's set. Like initially it's set in a city, but a majority of the incidents that we see with her and the scenes I have with her are set in either her house or her therapist's office. So it's very limited, and I'm also doing only a one-person POV. I'm just doing Lenore's POV. I'm not doing any others, and I'm also doing first-person POV. I felt more comfortable writing in that, so that's the way I did it. But yeah, once we get her and we have the inciting incident, then we move to where the story is going to take place, which is the small town, her hometown, Lenore's hometown. And there is a theme that runs through it a lot of like the rot and the decay in the world and how that can leave like a stain on a person's psyche and can really impact a person as well. It was something that just kind of came up in the writing, and like I said, I'm kind of a pantser style writer, so it was something that kind of came up that I hadn't initially thought about or planned, was nowhere in my outlining or anything like that, so that was an interesting thing for me to see, and it really plays a big part really once she gets back into the town. Like there's hints of it throughout the story prior, but once she gets back to the hometown, that's when we see it a lot more, and it really becomes like a constant reoccurring theme for her. But that's a little bit about Lenore and the style of the story. I think I've done a good enough job explaining that. I'm not really sure. I'm really bad at that. Now we're going to move on to the first love. His name is Colin Walker. She loved him ever since she was a child. They were always like sweethearts, but always kind of teased about it as well. And then eventually they got in a relationship as teenagers, but it didn't really work out, and she felt suffocated into the town, so she had to leave. And she left the minute that she could, and she went away to college, and so their love kind of stopped, but not because they wanted it to. And so since then she has had a very certain high standard, no, maybe not high standard, but like a certain standard for how a guy is supposed to act, even though it was teenage love. But it was just the feelings that came along with loving him that she held on to, and has really had an impact on her ability to hold other relationships, and also just her mental health as well, because a lot of the men that she meets tend to not always be that understanding to her, towards her mental health. We do have a character who is like a foil for the love interest. That character, the foil's name is Dante. He is great, handsome, you know, like checks everything off, but he cannot tolerate the fact that her mental health is that way and can rapidly decline at times. And also he is not down he is not down to deal with a stalker. He was like, yeah, nope, not for me, and then kind of leaves her high and dry with the breaking the possibility of her having a relationship when she was finally trying to allow herself to be comfortable with the idea of letting him in. So we do have that character Dante. He doesn't really come up much after we see that incident with him, because then we're going to see how he was a foil towards Colin. We also have another foil who is also the antagonist, which is the stalker. I'm not going to ruin one of the major surprises in it, but it's a very interesting dynamic that the three have, And when she goes back to her small town, that dynamic intensifies as well. So that's a little bit about the love interest and one of the characters that you're going to see. Another character is Abby or Abigail. She'll also be referred to by her nickname as Abs. She's great. She's like the female character that takes no shit, will tell everyone to like buzz off and like defend her friend while also trying to just be like, I am here as a woman, I will enjoy my womanhood, and it's full on yes to feminism, free to nips, everything. So she's a great character. She is also very understanding for our main character, Lenore, and she also tends to try and push Lenore and try and make her see things in a certain way rather than spiraling, which I really like. So yeah, Abby's great. She does, initially when I drafted it, I had Abby in the beginning, but then not as much when Lenore went into this, her hometown. And then in draft 2, I really changed that. So we're seeing Abby a little bit more. I would like to bring her back even a little bit more maybe, I'm not sure. I'm currently doing a reread before I do draft 3. So yeah, kind of figuring that part out with Abby and how much more of an influence I want her to have in the story. Some warnings about this story is that there are going to be a list of trigger warnings. That's me saying warnings. I'm saying the word warning so much. I'm just going to leave this in. So yeah, that is a thing that I really wanted to write down, specifically coming from a background of mental health and therapy and being an advocate for mental health. I want any readers going into this to know that there are going to be certain topics that I cover in this that can be very triggering. Such, for example, as stalking. If you have experienced a stalker, this could be triggering for you. I also cover a lot of mental health stuff like OCD, psychosis, hallucinations, delusions, elements of bipolar, so mania and depression, suicidal ideation, suicide attempts. So all of these things kind of accumulate into being a really intense read. And I want people going into it to also know that that is something that can happen. And if you're being triggered, you can take the time to step away from the book, because I don't want the book that I write to be too triggering and you're just forcing yourself. Like, you can DNF it if you want. Like, that is fine by me. But yeah, I'm also jumping ahead because it's like getting to the point where I'm like, oh, I'm published my book, and I'm like trying to warn readers. So I will come back to that and go back to the trigger warning. So we also have things of grief and loss of parents. That's like a major thing in it. So yeah, those are the triggers that I wanted to kind of talk about it a little bit. And I want people going into this to really think about like if they can handle those certain things. even for me, the certain triggers, like for example with the parent's death, was super triggering for me. Like, I've always kind of prided myself in like a weird mental health way of like, I'm mentally tough, and writing this and writing out my anxieties and my fears and stuff like that were super triggering. So I can remember when I was drafting just being in tears, just trying to process what I had just written. Like, I had just written like the death scene, or like the morgue scene where Lenore has to go identify her parents because it has to be someone who's a next of kin, or for the funeral scene. And those things, I knew they were going to affect me, but they really impacted me more than I really thought they would, which is kind of weird. Because you would think that I would know that it would impact me like intensely, but it's still, the intensity of it was more than what I expected. So this has been an interesting process for me, because as I've been writing it, I've also been in therapy, and so it's like coincided where we're processing certain things, and then that has come up in my book, and it's like I'm double processing. And so it's just been interesting because I'm getting so much healing done in the process of writing this while coinciding with therapy, that it's helping a lot with a lot of traumas that I've experienced in my life. And that's what this book is. This book is like a compilation of trauma upon trauma. It's like when they say to emotionally damage your characters, that is Lenore. She is just a walking bag of emotional damage. And that's okay, because people are like that. People are complex. People deal with a lot of crap, and it shapes us into the person we are, diagnosed or undiagnosed. And I think that is the part that matters, and that is the part of the story to me that matters the most, where it's not about where you get to, it's about the process and the journey that you are on to try and heal from whatever traumas or experiences you have had in your life that have had a negative impact on you. And that to me is the most important. So yeah. Thank you for coming along this journey with me for my first video. I'm probably gonna be very cringe about it when I post it, and I'm going to try and maybe post once a week or at least twice a month, actually full long videos, taking you along the journey a little bit more onto like the process and what I'm currently doing, how revision's going for me. It is going to look more also like a day in the life of kind of video as well. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed my video. I hope I made sense. I'm kind of going into this scripted and not scripted at the same time. It's just not my vibe to read off of a script. I can't. I tried. I can't. So yeah, hope you enjoyed. I'm gonna try and get another video up soon. But yeah, see you guys next time. Bye.